Hi, this is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. Well, let's talk a little bit about why you should consider going to Mexico or some other country to get your bariatric surgery if you're going to do that. And the number one reason is cost. Even with insurance, there's a lot of out-of-pocket costs that come along with trying to have bariatric surgery. And if you have a high deductible, it may cost you as much as going down to Mexico and paying a company like Bariatric, which is like $5,000 to $500 cash just to get your bariatric surgery. The other reason is you don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops. In order to get insurance to pay for your bariatric surgery, there's often like a 3 or 4 month process of where you've got to follow a very specific low carb calorie diet. It's tough. You may or may not lose the weight. And if you don't lose that weight, they will deny your claim and won't allow you to have the surgery. And that can be disheartening. And frankly, I think their diets, which are set up by American dietary guidelines, are not particularly effective. They are high carb, kind of rich in ultra processed foods, just low calorie. So they're not great ways to lose weight anyway. So you learn a lot of bad lessons going into it, and then you have the surgery. And one thing I noticed about the facility down in Mexico versus the United States is the room was much larger, and there was not very much equipment in there, which meant that there was very few surface areas for dust to collect and bacteria, etc. So there was a very low post-infection rate. And at that time, the WHO was following infection rates by different locations, and this facility happened to be one of the ones that they were rating, and it did better than many in the United States as far as low post-operative infections, because it just was so spacious. It was mopped 3 times a day. There's a lot of things that we just don't do in the United States because it's just cost prohibitive, but down there it was a lot cheaper. Now, why else would you want to do it? Well, the cost is pretty darn cheap. I mean, it's $5,500 cash out of pocket to have your surgery done down in Mexico. And it was done by a first-rate surgeon. I mean, you can, what's really cool about this whole internet thing is you can check your surgeons. Lots of great reviews. I was able to look him up and found out that he trained at UCLA, still had operating procedures there. So he's kind of spent half his time in the United States, half his time in Mexico. And he just made so much money because it was basically a cash and carry business in Mexico without much follow-up. So it was, pretty darn simple for him. People would fly over and have the surgery and get done. And that was pretty much it. So, it worked for him, worked for me. I didn't have to jump through the hoops. I will say this, he did highly recommend, we did a call consult beforehand, and he was very adamant. He said, look, you need to follow this diet. It's a low carb diet, 2 weeks and no alcohol beforehand so we can shrink the size of your liver. He didn't explain to me about fatty liver, but I've since learned that one of the big problems that most people have in the United States is fatty liver. That gets in the way. If your liver is too big, it gets in the way of the stomach, and it makes it very difficult for them, and extends the amount of time that you've got to be under anesthesia. So the smaller you can make your liver, the better off you are. So stick to that particular diet, go into it, get it done. Frankly, it's if you're just having a vertical sleeve surgery, it's done laparoscopically. There's not a lot of post-operative infection risk. It is. I mean, once they removed the drain plug, the next day I was pretty much ready to go. It was, relatively easy. You want to take it easy on the stomach because, follow their instructions for about a month, no heavy lifting, etc. But, you want to make sure there's no internal pressure on the stomach muscles during the first month. But after that, you're pretty much fine. There's, couple small little scars because there's 3 incisions that are required in order to do the laparoscopic surgery, but they're less than an inch, and it was pretty darn easy to get it in and out and done. And I have one more thing. If you notice in this particular ad, they're offering revision surgery. And again, bariatric surgery is not a magic wand. It is a tool, and it is a very powerful tool. It can really help help you to lose weight, overcome type 2 diabetes, etc., because it creates hormonal changes, but those hormonal changes last about 1 year to 2 years. And if you don't change your diet, if you don't change your lifestyle, you're going to have problems, and you're not going to be able to keep the weight off. Many of the people, 90%, 90% of the people that have bariatric surgery experience tremendous weight gain after their surgeries, and they have to go through revisions, or they have to figure out some way of eating right. And that's one of the reasons why I put together this channel, was because I was one of those people. I was starting to regain weight after 2 years of bariatric surgery, and that's when I discovered low carb. And that's what really has worked to maintain my weight and to keep me from being one of the 90% of people that regain their weight after having bariatric surgery. So this is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. I try to put out a couple messages each week. If you like this message, please hit like and subscribe. Join this channel of other like-minded folks. I will talk to you again soon.